Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're heading out on a geological expedition into what is, without a doubt, one of the most remote, extreme, and just visually staggering locations on Earth. We're talking about a place where the air is incredibly thin, the landscapes look like they were ripped straight out of a sci-fi movie, and the ground itself holds the key to unimaginable wealth and modern engineering. It's called the Qaidam Basin, and it's nestled way up high in the Tibetan Plateau.
Our source material actually sums it up perfectly. It says, the farther we traveled, the more Earth began to look like another planet. And you know, that really sets the tone for what we're about to explore. Because the Qaidam Basin isn't just some empty expanse of sand and rock. It's this massive, high-altitude basin spanning thousands of square miles, entirely boxed in by towering snow-capped mountains. And as you'll see, wandering through it is literally like stepping on a Mars without ever having to leave Earth's atmosphere.
Section 1. From Ocean to Wasteland.
So before we look at what it is today, we really have to unpack the first major micro-mystery of this explainer. How did this surreal, desolate landscape actually come to be? Because believe it or not, it wasn't always a barren wasteland. I want you to think about this for a second. How does an area that used to get over 1,000 millimeters of annual rainfall, meaning it was incredibly lush, incredibly humid, how does that become a hyper-arid desert where basically nothing can grow? How does an ancient superlake just completely disappear?
Okay, let's dive into this. Picture this. 800 million years ago, this entire region was part of a vast global ocean. Fast forward to about 30 million years ago, and the climate was actually warm and humid. We're talking about a lush, temperate, deciduous forest. Fossil records even show that elephants, rhinos, and giraffes were literally just wandering around the area. But then, a monumental shift happened. Tectonic forces violently pushed the Tibetan Plateau upward. Once the mountains around the basin rose over 2,000 meters, they basically formed a giant wall. And that wall completely blocked all the warm, moist currents rolling in from the Indian Ocean. The rain just stopped. The climate dried out, and that thriving ancient superlake slowly evaporated, breaking apart into smaller salt lakes, and leaving behind the dry, totally alien desert we see today.
Section 2. Landscapes of Another Planet.
Now that dramatic, millions of years-long evaporation process left behind some of the absolute most bizarre geography on the planet. If you take a drive along the G315 National Highway, which is this road that just stretches endlessly toward the horizon, cutting right through the remnants of that ancient lake, the first thing you hit is the Mangya Emerald Lake. And what's really wild here is the color. The water glows in these impossible, luminescent shades of green and blue. It looks totally artificial, but it's not. As the ancient lake evaporated, the water left behind became supersaturated with minerals like potassium and magnesium. Those extreme mineral concentrations are exactly what create these brilliant, almost radioactive-looking colors.
Next up is the Eye King Spring, a spot that's deeply feared and respected by locals. They actually call it the Devil's Eye, or the Eye of the Earth. It's this bubbling geothermal spring constantly surging up to the surface, and as the spring water evaporates, it leaves behind these massive deposits of iron and sulfur, which stain the barren earth around it in these really stark, violent shades of deep red and bright white. From above, it looks exactly like a giant, unblinking eye, just staring straight up from the desolate crust of the earth.
Then, there are the Wusu tea water yardangs. Over millions of years, fierce western winds funneled into the basin and violently carved the dry, ancient lakebed sediment into these jagged, Martian-looking dune formations. But what makes them completely unique is that they're partially submerged in water. It literally looks like the towering ruins of an ancient, lost city rising out of a desolate sea.
And of course, we absolutely cannot talk about Qaidam without talking about the salt. As the sea receded, it left behind a massive legacy. The Chalka Salt Lake is this vast, mirror-like salt plain. Because the water here is so dense with salt, waves almost never form. The surface is so perfectly still and reflective that it creates a breathtaking optical illusion of two skies, one above you and one right beneath your feet. It's so rich that people have actually been harvesting salt out here for over 3,000 years.
Section 3. Life in the Extremes. It's super easy to look at all these salt plains and wind-sculpted ruins and just assume, well, this place is totally dead. But actually, scratch that. It couldn't be further from the truth. The biology out here is incredible. The creatures that survive in this basin are the ultimate winners of natural selection. Take the plateau pika, for instance. It might just look like a simple, small mammal, but its burrowing is essential. It improves the soil quality and balances the entire region's ecology. Then you've got the massive wild yaks. These guys have literally evolved oversized lungs just to process enough oxygen in this high-altitude, super-thin air. And my personal favorite, the Tibetan antelope. To outrun predators like wolves in an environment where even humans can barely catch their breath, these antelopes evolved incredibly large, powerful hearts. It lets them sprint at an astonishing 80 kilometers per hour for over an hour straight without stopping. No way, right? Even the plants are tough. The Qaidam wolfberry thrives out here, producing nutrient-dense fruit despite the intense UV radiation and extreme daily temperature shifts.
Section 4, the ultimate energy cornucopia.
Okay, let's bring it all together. Understanding this harsh, ancient geology builds into a really vital realization about why this remote wasteland matters so much to our modern world today. Now, the name Qaidam comes from the Mongolian word for salt. And yeah, there's a lot of salt. But today, this basin is widely known as the ultimate cornucopia, or treasure bowl, of China. It's this brilliant, ironic contrast, a landscape that looks completely lifeless on the surface, but is actually hiding unimaginable wealth right underneath it.
Get this. The really crucial point here is that a staggering 64% of all the mineral types discovered in the entirety of China are concentrated right here in the Qaidam Basin. We are talking about 111 different kinds of minerals just buried beneath this alien landscape.
When you break down these resources, the sheer scale of it is just mind-blowing. The basin holds 80% of the nation's potassium chloride reserves, which drives this massive, world-class Salt Lake industrial base. It's also sitting on oil and gas reserves equivalent to 4.65 billion tons. Back in the 1950s, the Cold Lake oil boom was so huge, it transformed an uninhabited wilderness into a bustling town of tens of thousands of people almost overnight. But today, the most exciting resource being harvested out here isn't pulled from beneath the ground at all. It's being pulled directly from the sky.
27,135. Just take a second to process that number. That is the exact number of giant computer-controlled sun-tracking mirrors operating right now at the Dazzling Solar Thermal Power Plant in the Qaidam Basin. And this brilliantly illustrates the juxtaposition of this entire region. You've got this ancient, barren, wind-scoured geology directly next to cutting-edge human engineering. These 27,135 mirrors track the sun's path with robotic precision, focusing all of that intense, high-altitude solar radiation onto a single central tower. That tower reaches temperatures of up to 700 degrees Celsius, converting that intense heat into enough clean electricity to power 80,000 households. It's literally an ocean of light in the middle of a desert.
Which leaves us with this final thought. We started out today by looking at a dried-up, alien-looking remnant of an 800-million-year-old ocean, a place of intense isolation and really harsh survival. But as we've seen, it's also a place of incredible adaptation and futuristic innovation. So how does a place that looks like a dead, alien world hold the key to our planet's green energy future? It just goes to show that in nature, nothing is ever truly wasted. It's only transformed. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope you leave with a newfound awe for this incredible corner of our planet. Keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.